Hello everyone and welcome to the Hunter Association, your source for all things Hunter x Hunter. My name is Kaige.
And my name is Dylan.
And in this week's episode, we will be talking about post-Succession War speculation, theories, quote-unquote, just kind of general discussion about what we think is going to happen after the Succession War wraps up. Then, of course, we will be going through our community comments. If you would like to join in on the community and have your comment read, be sure to comment on the YouTube version, either on the video or on the community post. Also, make sure to like and subscribe to help grow our community of Hunter x Hunter fans. Additionally, if you'd like to know when new episodes are live, click the bell to enable notifications. And if you're an audio listener, make sure to rate and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and follow us on Twitter at TXHXAPod, as well as Bluesky at just THAPod, for podcast-related updates and to submit responses to the weekly call-out posts. If you'd like, you can also still email us at hunterassociationpod@gmail.com. As always, we provide timestamps in the description if you would like to skip ahead to any of the aforementioned segments.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so on the agenda this week, we actually do have some news for once.
Shocker, right?
Yes, and very exciting news, specifically for the two of us right here.
Yeah.
So, completely coincidentally, Frosty Fausting, which if you've been listening to the episodes these last few weeks, you will know that me and Dylan are attending, is going to have a playable build of Nen Impact.
Very shocked. I didn't expect them to actually bring that there for whatever reason.
Yeah.
We talked about it before. It was like, yeah, that'd be nice if it was there, but like, it's probably not going to be there, right? And just a week before the event, it's been announced. It'll be there all weekend.
Yep. So that's next weekend. We're very excited. We'll be there all weekend. We're going to get to hopefully play it a good bit. We'll see how much we can sneak in there. And yeah, so the plan originally, this also does change things a little bit. We were going to have a bonus episode next Sunday, but instead of that, we're actually going to have a bonus episode during the week, sometime next week, after we've played an Impact, and we'll do a whole episode, well, not a whole episode, bonus episode about our experience with the game, what we think. Show it on YouTube. On the YouTube version, we'll show any footage we may have gotten, if we get any. I don't really know how that's going to work yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be a good time. I'm looking forward to talking about it and obviously playing it first and foremost. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited. It's going to be a great time. Hopefully the lines aren't insanely long, but it's a fighting game. It's one of the largest fighting game tournaments in the country, so I have no doubt it'll be quite a wait, at least for the initial days that it'll be there. But
yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we get some good footage if we're allowed to record anyways. And yeah, we'll be sure to get our thoughts to you guys. I think it'll be a very good discussion to have.
Yes, that's going to be a good time. And, if any of you guys are in or around Chicago or want to make the flight, you can see us there and also now playing an Impact. So you have double the reasons to go.
Double the reasons.
So,
that's right.
Yeah, check it out if you're in the area and say hi if you're somehow there.
Yeah.
And now the other thing here, I want to let Dylan take over because he's a little more informed on this than I am. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so it's a little weird to be putting this into the news section since this is more of a rumor than anything. But there is some speculation going on that at Anime Japan this year. So if you know anything about that at all, it's basically not exactly another Jump Festa, but like it's one of the larger anime events, I guess, going on in Japan throughout the year. That's happening in March, I believe. And it was recently announced, discovered. I'm not sure how it exactly came about, but it was a few days ago. It was probably a day after we recorded, I think, the last episode as of this recording, where it was said that Nippon Television and VAP, which, if you don't know, are producers of the Hunter x Hunter 2011 anime, are going to have a joint exhibit at Anime Japan 2025. Now, that in of itself, it doesn't say a whole lot, and you may be thinking, how does that relate to Hunter x Hunter? Like, they probably produce so many other series. And you'd be right. Except that they have Hunter x Hunter specifically as a series that they will be exhibiting at the event. Now, this could be something. This could be absolutely nothing. They could just be, like, shilling the anime just for the sake of it, for all we know, right? But it is interesting that Hunter x Hunter has a specific listing there, as well as there being an M next to the initials V and N, which you can guess are for VAP and Nippon Television, right? There's an M there, which a lot of people are assuming to be Madhouse. So whether Madhouse will be present there as well is kind of up in the air, but it is a little interesting that like it's going to have its own exhibition and showcase there at Anime Japan. Again, it could be absolutely nothing, but it could also be an announcement. As they say in their description, we'll be presenting a variety of anime works that are currently being broadcasted, as well as new anime that are scheduled to be broadcast in the future. So, as you can maybe assume, a lot of people are latching onto that. It is interesting, though.
It certainly is interesting. That definitely made me raise my eyebrow when you told me about this. That's peculiar. So we'll see. Take it with a grain of salt, guys. Some people are definitely blowing this way out of proportion, but we try to be real about things here. This could be absolutely nothing. We got to make sure you guys know that. But, keep an eye on it. You never know.
There is something to be said about how, like, Hunter x Hunter, at least to my knowledge, maybe you would know more about this than me, Kaige, but I feel like Hunter x Hunter isn't really, like, a series or title that's really showcased at events like this, especially over the last few years. So it's interesting to see this be in even an exhibition, like booth or exhibit, whatever you want to call it, right? It's weird for it to be present at an event like this, because I feel like I haven't heard about it being at something like this over the last little while.
Yeah, I don't know really, but I certainly haven't heard of it appearing at anything like this in the last decade. But I don't know. I'm not fully plugged into stuff like this, so I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, if you would maybe have more information on that, we would, appreciate you reaching out to us with that. Because, I think we both are a little bit in the dark about how this would even work. But, again, interesting information nonetheless. Keep an eye on it. Anime Japan is in, I think, March 23rd, somewhere in that ballpark. 23rd through 24th of March. I may be off by like a day or two, but somewhere around that time frame.
Yeah, so keep an eye out. We'll certainly keep our eyes on it, and we'll let you guys know if something happens, I guess. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's a couple months down the road, unfortunately. So gotta be waiting.
Japan loves to announce things they love to announce announcements, and also really early.
Classic.
That's their favorite thing to do.
It really is. And yeah, in terms of manga progress, there's been absolutely nothing. Radio silence still from Togashi.
Nope.
Yep.
Still nothing, guys, unfortunately. All right. Well, that's all we got for news. Again, Frosty Faustings, exciting. Can't wait. And we'll have a cool bonus episode for you guys next week. No episode on Sunday, though. I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
But during the week, there will be something.
We'll get something.
All right.
Don't worry.
Yes. All right, guys. And with that, let's jump into the topic at hand.
Yep.
You ready, Dylan?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, everybody, welcome to our discussion on what's going to happen after the Succession War. So, this is going to be our most podcasty podcast yet.
Yeah.
In the sense that we're just talking.
We're just going to be talking.
We're having a conversation. Wanted to give this a shot because we've done speculation episodes and segments before, but they were always heavily guided. We thought about it extensively beforehand. But let's just see where me and Dylan's free-flowing minds can get us.
Yeah, very little prep work has been done for this segment specifically.
Intentionally, I will add.
Yes.
So let's just see where this goes. And then we'll obviously see what you guys have to say and add to that conversation. We have a few. We do have somewhat of a guide here. We're gonna follow a few talking points, some characters and events and whatever. And starting off, let's talk about. How's the Succession War itself going to wrap up?
This is a loaded question in of itself to start off with.
It sure is.
Because it could, I think we're all in agreement, right? Like this could end in a bunch of different ways. Although typically what I'm finding most people really think is that it's going to all like end up in flames, so to speak. But I'm honestly not so sure. I'm really not. But this is also a really hard one to predict at the same time because so much is happening that's going to have ramifications for however this arc will end.
And so much has to happen still. It's hard
Yes.
to like see a path. Like I don't know where we're gonna go.
Yeah, and it's also difficult to talk about this because however this wraps up might have ramifications for wherever we go next after that.
Right.
So that this has an effect on our further talking points, further into this discussion. So this is a weird one to like straight up predict. So in my head anyways, I can only kind of give thoughts on like how I could see it like wrapping up in like a general sense, right? Maybe not specific to specific character arcs or plot lines, but like basically the discussion comes down to, in my opinion, like does everything just go up in smokes on the boat before they even reach the continent? Do they reach the continent, like the fake dark continent, and
The new continent.
the new continent, and the Zodiacs go on their mission as planned? Things like that. Does everything end up peacefully? Is there truly like one prince that survives on the boat? Like, there's a lot to consider. But those are kind of like the general things that come to mind whenever I think of the question.
For sure. Yeah, like the big thing whenever I think about this on my own is like, is the boat gonna make it? That's,
Yep.
I think that's the question on everybody's minds, because it is a very obvious plot device being set up with the fact that the tier 1 is a separate boat altogether. So obviously it can go on without the black whale itself. So that just feels like a setup for a slam dunk. But will it actually happen? It doesn't have to.
It really
Togashi
doesn't.
has set things up that don't pay off many, many times. So I wouldn't be surprised if the boat actually does make its full journey, goes to the new continent, drops everybody off, and then goes to the dark continent, peachy keen.
Yeah.
Of course, something has to happen with the succession war regardless of that. It either has to be canceled, interrupted, postponed, or it just ends properly.
It being postponed would be such a weird one, to be honest. Though.
Yeah, that I can't see happening. Well, who knows? I mean, it could be like, hey, we got to finish this on the Dark Continent or something.
That'd be crazy. I would be shocked.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I see the Succession War actually finishing on the boat personally.
Well,
but
there's an idea kind of popped up into my mind there about like,
okay,
maybe not postponing the contest necessarily, but like that. I've never thought about this until now. What do you think about the potential of like maybe the contest just not fully wrapping up even until we get to the Dark Continent? Like, what if like maybe only a couple of princes survive, reach the continent, and then like the contest is finished and like, it's in its final phases through some kind of contest on the continent itself? Because we keep thinking about how like only one prince can survive, if the contest goes all the way through. But we've never stopped to consider the contest doesn't have to go all the way through on the boat necessarily. Because the whole thing is about like, somebody being worthy of being king, right? Essentially. So like what if part of that is proving yourself on the continent itself through
Dark
some way?
Continent.
Yeah.
My mind filled with ideas when you said that. That is interesting, but a lot of contradictions appeared too. So okay, if this were to happen, let's say there's like, I don't know, 3 to 5 princes left, right? We hit the Dark Continent.
Sure.
Well, okay. First of all, actually, the Kakian royals would be dropped off on the new continent if it goes the way it's scheduled. They wouldn't go to the Dark Continent. But that doesn't have to be set in stone per se.
Right. Especially with Beyond's influence. Like,
right.
That's
Beyond is cooking something right now. We do know that. So could be related. Maybe for some reason of his wild motives that we don't fully understand, he wants to have the Succession War finish on the Dark Continent. I don't know why he would, but we don't know anything about him.
It's
really.
Beyond.
So.
He's a very crazy person, so it's not out of the cards for me.
So where I see that going is we have those like 4, 3, 5, however many factions being set up, kind of branching off.
Right.
And obviously this means nothing to you, Dylan, but this is a very similar setup to the last arc of Yu Yu Hakusho in that case.
Oh, okay.
Where we have in that one it was 3. There's 3 different kings fighting for the crown of the demon world. They all have pretty extensive factions, so we would have the whole bodyguard team, maybe mafia families joining certain sides and building armies, and then maybe culminating in like an actual war on land between the however many factions.
Oh man.
Which is crazy. That is like something I've never thought of until right this second. But hey, that's the fun of this episode.
That's the fun of this, yeah. And hey, that kind of leads more into the whole, like, this arc is, what Togashi really wanted, that arc in Yu Yu Hakusho to really be, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of leads into that even more.
3 Kings arc. Yeah, and we could even see, I mean, this could be, since at this point, this would be like total anarchy, we could see illegitimates trying to take the throne. We could see Marina actually getting a faction, like a full faction of her own. Not that she doesn't have one already, but like even more followers beyond those contaminated with contagion. Other followers, other patient zeros, and then spreading a huge army.
That would be a payoff.
Continent creatures could get it.
That could be such a amazing payoff. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, Marina on the Dark Continent is something I would love to see.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
I'm so into that idea. And especially because I feel like a lot of people are not necessarily writing off Marina, but I think we've been guilty of this too. I don't know if we've ever discussed Marina with the idea that she would live past this arc necessarily.
No. And we're guilty of doing that with a lot of characters, I think. And we should stop. Because honestly, man, a lot of these guys, Serednich even, like his story does not have to end on this boat.
No.
We could have a lot of princes coming off of this boat. Benjamin's not looking likely anymore, but that's interesting. The fact that Benjamin is not really a candidate anymore is saying a lot about the princes that are left. We should honestly be looking at Tyson more. I think there's something about Tyson that we're missing. Like, her power is really interesting, and the fact that it's still a mystery about exactly what it's doing.
Right.
There's something to be said there, Like, we could have some crazy Tyson shit go down in the future.
Definitely one of the more underexplored princes still. So,
yeah.
I mean, I could see that being a possibility. Especially knowing that, we don't know everything about her, Nen Beast, and her ability in general, too. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the main mystery of that again? Like, there's some, like, specific, like, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, trigger, almost, that'll, like, take effect, under specific circumstances.
Here, I'll read the thing from our chart, exactly.
Sure.
So, right, it lays smaller Nen beasts called eggwogs, or eyewogs, sorry. These eyewogs attach themselves to anyone who comes across Tyson's teachings, collecting aura from them and bestowing happiness in return. The degree of happiness received depends on how thoroughly one has read the Book of Tyson. Should Tyson's teachings, one and only taboo be broken, harsh punishment will be meted out.
That's what it is.
So,
that's what it is.
Yeah, there's a punishment that we don't know about. For breaking a taboo, which we also don't know about. But I think something we do know that I didn't write there is that the taboo is personalized for each person. I could have made that up, but I think that's right.
I can't necessarily remember, so I'm not going to say.
Yeah, you don't have to trust me on that, but I think I'm right. Regardless, that doesn't matter a whole lot. Yeah. Just the fact that there is a taboo that can be broken, and once broken, there's a punishment.
I mean, yeah.
The punishment could benefit her. Like,
right.
We don't know what it does.
But yeah, thinking about Tyson more, like, where we're kind of talking about the idea of just like massive alliances on the continent itself.
Exactly.
Right? Like, Tyson is very much a candidate for someone who could have one. Like, we've already seen.
That could make an army.
She has very loyal followers, let's say, at this point, Mm-hmm. So, there's prime possibility there with Tyson. I'll give you that much. Yeah.
And the only one she hasn't won over right now is Izunavi.
True.
So
yeah.
Could also be important. But yeah, I do think the princes as a whole, we should be open to the idea of them moving past the boat. This arc doesn't have to end on the boat per se.
Yeah.
which I am now even more open to the idea of after having this conversation.
Yeah, and that's the note I was trying to go on too. Like, it's not necessarily a black or white scenario with Succession War. This can be prolonged as long as Togashi wants, in all honesty.
Right.
And there's so many avenues to go down, and that's just one that I thought of personally about how, like, it there could be multiple princes surviving this voyage.
Right. We just have to find a way to get them to go to the Dark Continent because it kind of doesn't make any sense. But I really think Beyond would be our ticket there. I think Beyond would pull some strings and make something happen.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, the idea from the Zodiacs, especially right now, is that they'd be dropping Beyond off at that continent too. But, like, do any of us think that would actually happen, like, willingly with Beyond? Or, no, rather, Beyond would go with them to the actual Dark Continent, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he would.
I was misremembering. My bad.
Yeah, because he has to lead his team.
You're right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, regardless, yeah, if anybody's going to pull strings to bring princes along to the continent, it'll be Beyond, who is also a benefactor of the Kakin royal family. So, like, I mean, he's very much involved with their business as in general. So,
yeah,
I don't know. He's like the middle
100%. Yep. So this kind of cleanly transitions us into the next talking point of where do we go? Are we going to the Dark Continent for like the next arc after the Succession War is over? And this is kind of muddled because of what we just talked about, because we could very well see the end of the arc on the Dark Continent.
Right.
But we also need to take a step back and think like, okay, that might not happen actually.
It could just end normally on the boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's equally
this could just end on the boat. Boat could go down in flames. Boat could stay. I don't know. But the Succession War could end on the boat. It could even end soon. We actually talked about this on the last chapter episode, how things are kind of seem like they're speeding up, but who really knows? Like, who knows? That's all I can say.
It's speeding up, but like, how close are we actually to the end is kind of up in the air.
So, obviously, the other thing that could happen if we don't go to the Dark Continent next arc would be to touch back on Gon, Killua, Aluka, anybody else on the mainland, which really isn't that many. A lot of people are on this damn boat.
Yeah.
But two of our main characters are.
In my mind, it's like as weird and as like insane of a perspective it is to have about, like, trying to think about what happens after we're off of this boat finally. I really do feel like it only comes down to two possible scenarios, which is either we continue with the Dark Continent stuff or we cut back to Gon and or Killua. And that's like the only options I have in mind. And it's partly because, like you said, there's so many goddamn characters on that boat, dude. Who else do we cut to? I don't know if we cut to anybody else.
No, everybody's there. That's the thing. Yeah. Like, it's really, and that just makes Gon and Killua's absence even more crazy, just because, like, they're like the only characters not there. I mean, the Zoldycks, I guess.
Something else just came to mind. Unless, I don't know if they'll be. They have to be involved with the Dark Continent stuff, obviously, given where their story is going. But, like, Jing and Pariston, I suppose, are candidates as well to be cut away to for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also feel like those are, like, that's more in trying with the Dark Continent stuff than anything else. So, like, I've kind of lumped them together.
Yeah. I mean, those two are going to be main figures once we get to the Dark Continent.
Yeah.
It's just, we're kind of waiting on them.
Right. But, so, all that being said, yeah, like, really, in my mind, it's either we continue with that or we cut back to our two favorite boys after so long.
Mm-hmm. And which one of those, it's impossible to say. I would love to see Gon and Killua. I think we're due. Like, it would be good. That would be a good time to let us see them again. But we could be waiting a while.
In my mind, and this is just me personally, it would be more natural for sure to continue with the Dark Continent storyline.
Yep.
At the same time, it's been like a decade, guys. Like, I think I think it would do the series a lot of good, and I think maybe it would even do Togashi a lot of good with, like, a fresh perspective and fresh start almost to cut back to Gon and Killua after we wrap up the Succession War, even if it's only just for a little bit, even if it's like a mini arc almost before we cut to the Dark Continent and we try to connect those one way or another if we want to, right? I I think a lot of people would appreciate seeing those two again. Or
Yep.
one or the other at the very least. Doesn't have to be both together, I suppose, which we'll kind of touch upon later. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'd just really like to see that. I think it's long overdue.
And like you were kind of alluding to, like, it would be a good break
Yes.
for Togashi. Like, just do something else for a bit. But, you know, there are arguments to be made, like the fact that maybe we should be away from Gon and Killua as long as we were away from Kurapika.
Fair.
I've seen people throw that idea out. And that is fair. I mean, Kurapika was kind of robbed of screen time for a very long time. It would be fitting in a way, I guess, to do the same to the other party, but I would I just don't want it. I just want to see them again.
It's a little muddied for me by the amount of breaks that have happened since
Real world time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Real world time, I think, is a big factor that not a lot of people give credit for or really think about in terms of, like, you know, reading a series in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I know from a pure chapter number perspective, right? Obviously, we could spend so much more time with Kurapika, and it probably still wouldn't even make up for, like, how long he was absent from the manga when Gon and Killua were on their adventures in Greed Island and Chimera Ant, right? But, man, real world time is such a big thing, and I think I just, as the years go on and as you kind of get more and more worried about, like, if the series will ever even finish, you know, as weird and as tough as that is to kind of, like, think about, right? I think that leaves even more credence to, like, seeing Gon and Killua again. Again, even if just for a little bit, I think would reinvigorate the series in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah. And we're going to touch on that more in a later topic, but for now, let's roll back to the boat cast.
Yep.
We're just going to talk about some individual characters, where we think they will be by the end of the arc, and where we think they would, what we think they'd be doing on the Dark Continent if they are on the Dark Continent. So first of all, Kurapika. I'm sure many of you in the comments, we haven't read any of the community comments yet. Obviously, we're not there yet. Probably you're saying, like, oh, he died or something, whatever. We just did that whole episode about Kurapika where we both expressed that we really want to see Kurapika happy.
Yes.
Obviously, landing on the Dark Continent, he's not going to be happy right away.
I don't think anybody's going to be happy landing on that continent.
No.
Dude.
But I want to see him make it there. I don't want him dying on this boat.
Yeah. No, and I'm very much in line too. I think it would be a damn shame if we, like, in my head, this entire storyline and, like, all of these interconnections happening with Kurapika on the boat through the succession contest, all of his internal struggles, I think it would be damning almost if we don't see a payoff that leads him to kind of, like, finding a true reason to go on with his life rather than just, you know, being stuck on, like, you know, these desires and, you know, lust for revenge almost, and just kind of like this avenging mindset that he has to himself, right? And, you know, not only to live selfishly for himself, but, you know, to live for his friends as well. You know, I would really like to see that kind of be a conclusive, like, how do I say it? Like a conclusive climax to his story arc. Now, when we get to, once that happens, do whatever you want with him, honestly. But I would very much like to end, you know, these storylines that are ongoing with him. I want to see it result in him going down a path to happiness at the very least, I think, which I think requires him to live, in my mind.
Absolutely. And, you know, it is hard to imagine what he would do on the Dark Continent, but
yeah.
Something. And also, you know, if our idea about the princes continuing on, Serednich, I mean, I also just, I think about the fact that Serednich wants world domination, right?
Yep.
What if he, like, sets his sights higher? Like, he's like, forget Kakin, I don't even care anymore. I'm going to rule the Dark Continent.
Not
like,
out of the question. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen time and time again, he just gets enamored at just new things in general, new toys to play with. And Nen is very much his pet project right now. If we, by the end of this all, see him have, like, just complete mastery of Nen almost, or, like, just evolve even further to, like, some ungodly being. Who's to say, like, yeah, like he sees or hears about what the Dark Continent is like for one reason or another, one way or another, and he says, "Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I would love to like have control over this." Like,
Yeah.
that's very much in character, I think. So like his story doesn't even
Absolutely.
have to end with Karapika specifically.
No. And it still could, but it could just be on the Dark Continent.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
like I think so many of us are so guilty of just looking at all these characters on the boat and not imagining a future for them. And we should, I think, collectively as a community, we should break away from that and actually start thinking about any of these characters beyond the boat. Because the more I'm talking, the more I'm convincing myself how possible this really is. Because so many of these people they have aspirations that are beyond this boat,
Yep.
beyond Kakin even. And I think there's something there. I think that's absolutely something we should be talking about more.
Yeah, and you could say Serenage especially, is probably
Yeah.
outgrowing Cockeen as the days go on the boat, right? Like he's
Yeah.
like do any of us even really think he's that interested in the contest itself at this point? Like, because I don't think so. I think
No, I think right now Nen is his focus. That's it. That's
it.
all he cares about.
that's
Yeah.
all that goes through his mind. He doesn't give a flying fuck about what's happening with everybody else on the boat and all of his fellow siblings. Like, does not matter to him at all. But yeah, all this is to say that like characters like Serenich can't die because he very much could within the Succession War.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important to kind of take a step back and realize some of these characters might have greater things destined for them than we're giving them credit for. They don't have to be self-contained within this arc specifically. And if you look back to prior arcs also, like, I mean, I don't know, like think back to like Greed Island. Like I'm sure some people thought like Bluesky was like just a self-contained character for Greed Island only, right? Look at her now. She's on the boat. She has stuff going on. Let's take the Chimera Ant. We have some characters coming out of Chimera Ant that are very much well and alive that maybe would think, yeah, all the Chimera Ants are going to be exterminated in this arc, right? Granted, I don't know how people were thinking when that was being publicized, right? But that's just a few examples about how like, you kind of want to keep your expectations open for in terms of like characters' fates and what they may or may not be doing. After a certain time period.
Yeah. I do also want to acknowledge though, like you said, that this isn't us closing off the idea of these characters dying on the boat. This absolutely can still happen. Because I mean, this arc really could just be contained to the boat. I'm just starting to convince myself that it's not entirely set in stone, like these characters can do more. And so on the flip side of that though, the troop is an interesting one, because for me, I actually do see this boat as their end. Are you with me there, Dylan?
Mostly. So this kind of takes me back to our theory video that we did way back when, where I was like, some most of the troop will die, some of them will live. I think as time goes on, I'm more and more open to like, yeah, this arc probably being the definitive end of the troop. But really only because I keep thinking about how inevitably we probably return to Meteor City in one way or another with another character we'll be talking about later on, potentially Gyro, right? I don't know how any of that story goes on. Like I feel like the troop existing would mean they always had that tie to like Meteor City, right? But like I feel like the troop being wrapped up in further storylines like that would probably be more of a disservice to the other characters that would be involved. And only because I feel like we're really fleshing out the meat and potatoes of the troop at this point, right? So in my head, after we're done with the Succession War, I really don't know how much more they're going to offer in terms of like plot devices, and just like overall like use towards the story. I'm not confident that they'd have a lot of great use outside of where they are right now, right? So I feel like the end is coming closer and closer with them as I kind of think about that stuff. I don't know if I explained that perfectly, but
No, I get it. I do personally think that a couple are gonna survive, though. I don't see total annihilation, because on the same coin as you were just talking about Meteor City, I think it would be. Well, I'm of two minds about it, but I'll say the one mind that conflicts with yours.
Sure.
It'd be wild to not have any troop members involved with like a Meteor City takeover thing, because that's their home. They're like the guardians of it. We see that in Chimera Ant. And it'd just be crazy to not have any of them involved at all.
That's fair. Do you think they would still have to be the troop in name, though? Or do you...
No, exactly. Okay. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. A couple members live. The troop's done. Like Crollo, especially Crollo. I want to mention him in particular. He's dead this arc. 100%.
I don't... Crollo is kind of who I'm thinking of, where I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, as cool as he is there going to be much more he has to offer outside of, like,
No.
the climax with Kurapika, assuming it happens on this boat, which I'm kind of thinking it will. But...
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it'll come to a head here, not on the Dark Continent. That would make the Dark Continent way too busy at that point. I think the troop is done here, especially Crollo. And obviously, without the head, the spider collapses. But that doesn't mean every member dies. Right. I think a lot of them will. But I'm thinking a couple are going to stay around. For some reason, I envision Nobunaga being one of them. I don't know why, but that's just somebody that's in my head. I think somebody will live, and somebody will go on to do something in Meteor City later on in a Gyro arc that we'll probably never see. But
that kind of gave me a cool like mini. I don't know how you would set this up, but like I don't know, like because like the whole idea is that Gon and Gyro will eventually meet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We know that Gon and Killua had their very first troop interaction really was with Nobunaga, right?
Yep.
That'd be kind of a cool little like wrap back around moment.
Well, technically it was Shizuku.
Oh,
the arm wrestling.
Okay,
thing,
Shizuku, yes, but
yeah.
in terms of like actually being like, oh, this is the troop, like it was Nobunaga, really. That was kind of who they conversed with at the very least.
Yep. And he definitely had an interest in them as well. He wanted to recruit them. So, I mean,
yeah.
there's something there. I can see them working together.
Potential friendship.
Yeah, hey. Could be a cool ally for that fight.
Phantom Rouge moment.
Actually, yeah.
But memes aside, though, yeah, I see I respect the idea that like the troop itself kind of collapses and disintegrates, but you know, if a couple characters live on past that, just not in the troop's name, and they just kind of around, doing their own thing, I think that'd be fine too. Because my argument was more so that like the troop as an entity won't really have much to offer outside of this arc.
And I'm with you. Like I said, no doubt in my mind the troop is done this arc. I would be shocked if they go on past it.
Because one way or another, I think is just there's going to be severe consequences to the troop at least by the end of this arc. And even if they don't fully disintegrate from this arc, I think it's inevitable, right? So yeah. I mean, even that's telling even from like the fortunes from York knew, but yeah.
Next talking point, which we kind of talked about a lot already, is the princes. We basically talked about them the whole time at the beginning here, but I do want to just say that I think we're both in agreement that even if some of them do live, we're still going to see more deaths on this boat. Yeah. We're not done with that yet.
We're not done.
Going to be very few making it out, but the ones that do, I think, are going to be very telling of what the future has. Wobble probably kind of has to make it out alive. I can't see them killing her.
Like, as dark as that would be, and like how like maybe that would set up for a really like cool like Kurapika moment, especially. I don't see them killing Wobble. I mean, maybe Oito. No, not Wobble though.
Maybe Oito actually, but not Wobble.
No, I think Wobble continues to live, even if it means like Oito dies and like Kurapika has to like take care of this baby on his own.
Right.
There comes a dad out of nowhere.
New purpose.
Yeah, new purpose. Hey, that could very well lead to Kurapika.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, Wobble at the very least is not dying. Which kind of leads for like an interesting thing. Like, okay, if we do go on the assumption that one prince will live for the contest. Like, will it be Wobble actually? But that kind of
that's the thing.
Or maybe, again, it kind of leads into what we were talking about earlier about how like the contest goes on even towards the continent. Maybe Wobble survives just out of pure like protection from Kurapika, but like someone like Serenich is also alive. It's like, well, only one's gonna have to live for this contest, right? And maybe that leads into a conflict on the continent, something like that.
And that could also very well be the final conflict on the boat as well. Again,
Yeah.
don't want to close off it ending on the boat. That can still absolutely happen.
Absolutely.
Things could come to a head. It could be final princes on the boat or Wobble and Serenich, which, at this point, I could absolutely see that. The way things are going with, Benjamin being poisoned now, other princes potentially being dead, Loserus maybe is dead right now. We don't know.
Yeah, unconfirmed.
So many things going on. But if we are going to the several princes surviving the boat approach, I would say definitely Serenich, Wobble. Who else though? Really, Zhonglei maybe.
Maybe Zhonglei. You can make an argument still for Hulkenberg out of technicality.
Yes, in a different body, I'll say, but yes, Hulkenberg.
Hulkenberg's a weird one to talk about with where we left off.
Yes, oh man,
I don't know what to say about that character in terms of like predictions or where I see him going, because like I truly don't know what Togashi has planned for that godforsaken character.
Me either, but I'll be by his side no matter what he does.
and that's not like that doesn't come from a lack of ideas necessarily. It's just that like the way Togashi is handling that character specifically is like so like out there compared to how he handles other characters and like what they're doing, and like it's just complicated by nature, like due to his ability. So like do we even count him as like an alive character even at this point if his main body's dead? Like, it's so weird to talk about. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's so hard, and we don't have enough information on him currently to even really talk about his status. So like, I don't know. He's a wild card. The only other prince to really talk about, I think, well, Mariam is interesting because we still don't know a goddamn thing about his Nen Beast, other than the room thing is all we know.
Freaking creates a new time and space dimension, basically.
Yeah. So there's something there, but again, that's a hard one to predict. He also has really damn good bodyguards, so like he's got Hanzo and Biscuit guys. God damn, he's stacked.
You also got to think like, are they gonna kill off the kid again? Like
again, that he's like 5 years old. Are they gonna do that? I don't know, but who knows?
They couldn't even kill off Kacha without making a copy of her. Like
true.
I don't know. It's interesting to think about like young like children being like killed off in a shonen, essentially. I don't know.
Well, it's happened. Arena and Chimera Ant.
Yeah, it's happened. It's just like
Arena.
I think I'm more so just like curious on like how it would happen, because usually it's not like an in-your-face thing with people that young, in these kind of works.
Right.
It's more like a roundabout way. And Chimera Ant was perfect for that because you just eat the children off screen and boom, they're dead. But I don't know. In terms of like the succession war, it's a little bit more interesting to think about. There's a lot of avenues to go down. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, Mariam's an interesting one. Who knows? Can't predict anything about him. But
that's just another character that's kind of impossible. Tyson in that similar manner as well, just because we don't really know a whole lot about her too.
The only thing I want to reiterate with Tyson again, man, she has the potential to make an army with that ability. So that there's something there. Yeah. Don't sleep on Tyson.
And then what you were saying earlier about Zhonglei, like that character is very much written as like a long-term payoff, right? Now we could have a subversion of expectations in that we kill him off early and we don't get to see any of that. It's just like a red herring.
Yeah.
But
I am still very married to the idea, and if you guys have been listening to us a long time, you'll know this one about the idea of his Nen Beast having another side.
Yep.
It can flip over and it doing something else. What that is, again, me and Dylan are not Nen ability speculators. That is not our forte. But
don't rely on us for that, please.
I can see that being a thing. And I really like the idea too. Maybe an offensive ability, maybe a manipulative ability. I don't know, but something that could aid him in future endeavors, maybe on the Dark Continent, which is why I can see Zhongle being a survivor if we are to take this to the Dark Continent.
Yeah, he could easily come out of nowhere in the short term and kind of like set himself up for success. Because right now he's kind of just lolling about because like he can't really do shit because his Nen build is actually useless right now. But
yeah,
you know, who's to say it can't change? Especially it's a coin. Like his whole entire Nen Beast ability is about coins. So like it flipping over just kind of makes logical sense as like something it'll be able to do. But like we don't know. It's just speculation.
Yeah.
Off the context.
Maybe you put the coins in on the other side.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Has anybody thought to
Who
look
knows?
on the other side of his Nen Beast, like those that can see it?
Not on screen. Maybe somebody did.
Just kind of thinking about that now. Like we've only ever seen the front. It's weird.
Yeah, we have. All right. Leorio. Let's talk about our boy for a bit.
Yeah.
So, I'm a big advocate for him being the main character on Dark Continent. I've said this for a very long time, and I think it is super possible. I've talked about this to death. I won't go too in depth, but
Yeah. I love the idea. I think it only makes sense. I think if we want to give each of the main four their own kind of like you can argue that chairman election arc was kind of Leorio's moment, but that's such a short arc. Like I don't even really count that.
And that was Killua's arc, really.
Yeah, that's really more so Killua's. Leorio just happened to have a focus on like the secondary plot of it.
Right.
But I think Leorio being on the Dark Continent makes the most sense in the world for me, for him actually having time to shine as a character that can develop and grow and be showcased in a prominent light. Whether that be from his medical capabilities, because Continent is very, very dangerous, right? Or just the fact that he's a part of the Zodiacs in general. They're kind of like kind of being the heads of that mission in general. And then something that kind of came to mind as well, we know that, Jing is going to be wrapped up in the Dark Continent to some degree, and Pariston, right? And Leorio has history with both of them, as we know from the chairman election. That could easily be kind of like a conflict shown, from Leorio's perspective. That would be really interesting to see. Yeah, I love the idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I got to say. Dylan hit the nail on the head. That's my thoughts. I think it's perfect for him, and I want to see it happen very badly. And I know a lot of you, I'm sure there's even comments about this, are going to say, oh, Jing will be the focus character for the Dark Continent.
Why not both?
Exactly.
Why not both?
Stole the words right out of my mouth. That's right. These two can work together. They have history.
That'd be really funny, actually. Kind of like a buddy cop kind of adventure, except these two hate each other because of their history. I don't know. That'd be interesting.
That'd be great.
Again, like even if they were kind of like at odds with one another, if there was like two different factions almost, like who's to say we can't like swap between sides? Kind of like how we're doing on the boat. I mean, you can have multiple focuses.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is we have an ensemble cast now. Like, there's so many characters we can focus on. But just, right now, Kurapika is our main character.
Yep.
But we're focusing on tons of others at the same time. So why can't the same happen with Leorio on the Dark Continent?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, same thing happened with Chimera Ant. I mean, Gon and Killua, main guys. But we're also looking at Knuckle. We're looking at Shoot, Moral.
Yeah.
So many people. Palm.
Really isn't nothing new.
No.
It's... this pretty standard Hunter x Hunter storytelling at that point.
Yeah. Now on that same coin, the Zodiacs.
Zodiacs.
So first of all, are they gonna all make it off the boat? Because I'm thinking, yeah.
It's weird because you have to factor in, the whole Beyond situation, right? And the fact that they have the traitor in their, midst as well. But
I saw you.
I think with how so many other things are happening on the boat, I feel like the whole Sayu trader thing and just the Zodiacs, I feel like they won't really get a spotlight until we reach at least like the new continent, right? I think that's maybe when we'll start to get a bigger focus on them. It really feels like every time we've seen the Zodiacs in the Succession War especially, they've just been kind of like ways to like string together plot elements or characters being in like a specific place. I've never really got the impression that like they're gonna do anything big throughout any of this arc, unfortunately for Leorio fans.
Unless now, and I have thrown out the idea too of absolute war breaking out on the boat,
Yes.
like on tier 3, and them getting involved then, which is definitely still possible. I think they you know, if an all out battle were to break out, I'm sure at least some of them would step in and do something.
That being said, if that's to happen, that's got to happen soon relative to where we are in the manga. Because again, things are going to be coming to a head real quick.
Yeah, things are heating up, which is funny because we're actually still pretty early in the voyage itself, all things considered. I think we're less than a month in still of a 3-month voyage.
Yeah, it's a few weeks, I think. I
Yeah.
could be wrong on that, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, so it's crazy how things are going.
Also,
right now.
though, like, well, okay, it would be really weird to just like time skip like 2 months ahead of time, but that wouldn't be like the most unlike Togashi thing to do.
If the Succession War actually wraps up, I see no problem with time jumping to the Dark Continent at that point. But
or at
to have the whole thing not last the whole breadth of. Oh, so you're saying like we skip parts of the Succession War?
Well, either that or Succession War comes to a head, and then we kind of just like time skip over the span of like, you know, a week at a time or so, you know, as we see like ramifications of what happened.
Okay, yeah, I could see it.
I'm not saying that's likely even, but you know, just an idea.
Yeah.
But I think my point still stands though, that like I really, unless Zodiacs do get themselves involved with like the lower tier specifically, even then I feel like none of them are like dying or like doing anything like really significant, so much as they just like keeping the peace, right? Or like trying to, or saving who they can if it comes to that, I guess. I feel like none of them are really going to get a time to shine until they reach the new continent at least and drop off whatever is left of Kakin.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Yeah. And speaking of, the rest of the boat cast is very broad, but we're talking bodyguards, we're talking, you know, the mafia, anybody like that.
Most of them might die, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, a lot of them, mafia specifically, probably going to be dead. Bodyguards also probably going to die, aside from a few here and there.
Yeah, like I don't see like Henry like lasting off of the boats, to be honest. Like people like that.
Yeah, no.
I'm trying to think of who would be most like. I think an easier question to ask would be who's most likely to survive or like, you know, do something after Succession War.
Surely Biscuit.
Yes, I think Bluesky is the most likely to live out of all the hunters recruited by Kurapika.
Hopefully Melody.
I hope
because
Melody.
I see Melody actually getting a somewhat of a big role in the Dark Continent because I'm sure the Sonata of Darkness has ties to the Dark Continent.
That would make sense, right? I could see her for sure. Although it's a little weird because she's kind of getting wrapped up in the whole assassination business now.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
anything could happen to her, which is kind of a scary thought. I still stand by my opinion that I think Hanzo is probably going to die on the boat. Through probably a really cool moment with Serenich. I'm still a very big believer in that encounter happening in general. But I think Hanzo will definitely be used as a plot device to further Kurapika specifically on the boat. I don't think he's going to be living. And I truly don't know about Basho and Izanagi. I'm not going to lie. I don't really have a read.
Yeah. Basho and Izanagi, they could go either way, really. Basho, I mean, he's the guard of a prince who may be dead right now, so there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
But I still have a hard time believing Losers is fully dead. I don't know, though. He really could be.
He left it so ambiguous in that.
I know. I hate where we're at. I hate Fulton. Oh, God, it drives me nuts.
I mean, it leaves more room for thinking at the very least than like chapter 400 did. Let's be real.
It does, but it's too much thinking. Like, I just want to know what happened.
I get
driving
it.
Me nuts.
Like we're on the opposite end
me.
of the spectrum. We left off on a very lukewarm moment in 400, and now in 410, it's like, you have so much to think about now. Have fun on this hiatus.
Yep.
Yeah. But Yeah, so I guess, a couple of those hunters can survive. In terms of like the rest of the boat cast, and especially thinking about the mafia, I there's a 50-50 chance some remnants of Morena's group, live on post Succession War, post boat. I just don't know to what degree. Like I don't know if Morena specifically survives, but I love the idea of like a patient zero surviving the boat.
Yep.
I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, even if like all of her followers and her are wiped out, just like one person.
Just one person.
Surviving,
that's all you
and
need.
then
Yeah.
Just continuing to level up, becoming a patient zero and starting it all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so even if Morena's story ends, Patient Zero, just as a concept, allows the opportunity to build just another character, another threat, and like make them into their own. And I love the idea of that. And it could be truly anybody, and that's the cool part about it.
Could be the unnamed one. Could be Cashew. It's an interesting thought, actually.
Cashew could be interesting.
Yeah. Dogman. I think that's too obvious, though. I think he's dying on the boat, but never know.
The elephant in the room in regards to contagion, especially Borkson.
Borkson.
That'd be.
Yep.
I don't know. Don't have a reading on her yet, admittedly, as well, because it's so early into her being introduced as like a major character.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Could be interesting. There's
and the little we do know about her is that she has like no ambition,
no aspirations at all.
To have her, in like a position of power, but that could also be interesting,
Yeah, for sure. There's something there. Maybe she'd survive. I could see her surviving the boat.
Yeah, I could see her making it off.
But yeah, I think the vast majority will probably end up dead though. Just all these one-off characters and characters we don't see often. Like, I'm sorry, Rihan fans, I don't think you're seeing them much after this arc.
Unfortunately not. Rihan's probably gonna bite the dust, but hopefully he goes out swinging. That's my hope.
His last page before death is just an entire 4-page rant.
Yeah, that would be great. All right, let's talk about the exciting stuff. Gotta end with the crazy stuff. Let's talk about Gon. Let's talk about Killua, Aluka, and Gyro.
Yeah.
So start off, Gon. What's happening? What's he gonna do?
Yeah. So this is so interesting to think about. I love thinking about this specifically because we've talked everything already. Pretty much there is to say about Dark Continent. We could see this. We could see these characters being involved and. The Dark Continent is just a big mystery in general. It's really exciting, but I find it so much more exciting to think about just cutting back to the mainland, even for a little bit.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And admittedly, a lot of that's because of Gon and Killua. But I don't know. I think the mystery of what Gon is even going to do with his life at this point, especially knowing that he eventually meets Gyro per the manga, right? How do we even get there? That's so exciting. That is probably the most exciting topic for me to think about in terms of how we get there and what happens and how all of that. And truth is, I don't know, but that makes it exciting. But I think it's obvious though that Gon will eventually find a reason at least to relearn Nen, right? I think we're in agreement there.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has a reason already. He wants it. He's not done adventuring. He was cut short by circumstance. So, but yeah, it is weird that he hasn't tried anything yet. I guess, he's just spending time with Mito. Maybe he'll
because
just kind of go off.
Where we left off with him was him basically explaining that, his entire reason for adventuring in the first place was to find his dad, right? And now that he found him, he doesn't really have or what was his wording exactly? Is that he found them and then he
realized it's not what he really wanted.
Yes.
That was his wording.
In that same vein, he doesn't really explain what he actually wants, though.
Right.
So that's an interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe he's still trying to find a reason. I'm just trying to think of what would get him out there again. And honestly, maybe it is just Killua paying him a visit. Maybe that'll be the spark.
Yeah. I see Killua catching wind of something, maybe some plot, maybe Gyro. I don't know. We'll talk about Gyro in a second, but maybe he'll figure out some weird method of getting Nen back, and he'll come to Gon and be like, all right, hey, let's try this out. Something like that is what I see happening.
This kind of ties back to that whole wild card theory I had in the theory video. But I still am a really big fan of the idea of that, like, so going back to the boat, just really quickly, right? We know that Moral and, probably his associates and helpers and whatnot is going to be helping with the, transporting from the new continent to the dark continent, right? I would love the idea of, like, something, I don't know what would happen, something big happening to where, like, they need some more people on the way to help with this dark continent, like, expedition in general, right? Or, like, something happens on the way there and, like, contact needs to be made ASAP, right? I like the idea of, like, similar to how the series began with, like, Kaite inspiring Gon to, like, it kind of inspiring Gon to be a hunter in general, right? Like, having somebody reach out to him to kind of, like, re-inspire him almost. And I like the idea of, like, if we assume that, Kaite, like reborn Kaite, right, is kind of like being involved with the Hunter Association, as it's kind of hinted to be the case per chapter 340, I believe, where it's shown like Kaite and a bunch of other people just kind of like, being together, and Kaite kind of looking to be more like Kaite's last words to Gon that we know of were that, like, we'll call you if we, need help at all, right? Like, we'll work together again, essentially, right? It's kind of what Kaite said. Mm-hmm. So I like the idea of, like, maybe Kaite specifically. It doesn't have to be Kaite, but I like the idea of it wrapping back around to Kaite doing this again, almost, right? Kind of reaching out to Gon and kind of, like, inspiring him again, whether just requesting for help or just kind of, like, putting the idea out there even. And Gon kind of gets re-inspired by that and just goes on adventure, maybe just for the sake of adventuring and not actually trying to find something. And it'd be almost kind of like becoming his father almost, because that's a very genuine thing to do.
Yeah.
And maybe that leads to Gon searching out for Killua again. Maybe not even, Killua reaching out to Gon.
True. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I could easily see that happening. Yeah, Kaite, getting him back in the fray, and then, maybe even getting on that sub with Moral and picking up people at the new continent. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe that could just be it.
I think it's been implied that, like, Moral is, like, waiting at the new continent, but, like, that's not confirmed.
I mean, Nove can just take Gon there. Like, it was.
Wait, yeah,
well, maybe.
I can't remember the name of the person, but I remember there being a page specifically where it's like they have a person working with them to, like, transport. It's a teleportation-like ability similar to Nove, but, like, it's not Nove. It's somebody else. I don't know the name, though.
I think it's a girl. I don't know her name, but yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody. Yeah. But, like, there's that.
Yeah. So they could easily just go from, one place to another, assumingly. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe Moral just, like, gets going back up in the hunter business. I don't know. It's hard to predict how Gon actually becomes a main character again, but there's a lot of opportunities and avenues to go down. I think is kind of the point of this.
Yeah, but yeah, he could absolutely be a player in the Dark Continent arc.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean,
and I mean, obviously the end goal for Gon is Meteor City with Gyro, right? But who's to say we can't do the Dark Continent first before then? Yeah,
we'll talk about Gyro in a second, but first let's talk about Kilo and Aluka,
which probably arguably more intertwined with the Dark Continent than Gon ever will be.
Yes, so Killua getting involved with the Dark Continent is a lot more easier to see a path to, because, I mean, that's the origin. That's where Nanika came from.
Yep.
So it's almost like, why isn't he going?
Like, it makes you wonder, right? Like, why isn't he involved if Aluka and, Nanika, that's all tied with the Dark Continent? Why is he not there? What does Togashi have planned for him?
Yeah, I mean, it could just be a thing where Killua doesn't really care, and neither does Aluka or Nanika, but I don't know. You'd think you'd want to know where Nanika came from.
Right. And, it's kind of a coin flip to me. Because, like, they could just not get involved, and that'd be perfectly fine. Like you said, like, Killua could just not care. Aluka could just not care, right? Like, it could just be a non-factor. But Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I obviously, when you think of Killua and Alaka, you think, how do they get back with Gon? You know, like, do they all go exploring together? Does Alaka even stay with Killua if Killua were to go like do hunter stuff again, right? Which, do we even like know what Killua was doing at this point? Did he just like go back home with Alaka after chairman election?
No, they didn't go back home because the family like abandoned.
Oh, right.
Or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just kind of wandering. I think they're just like doing their own thing.
Okay, yeah, so very open ended. Whatever they're doing. Yeah, so they could show up at any time. Honestly, like we don't know what the hell they're doing. Like, there's not like it's not like a Gon situation where like he's clearly just like chilling at home doing homework, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
They're out and about. They could get involved at any time. So I could see the Dark Continent's easy for them to get into because they could be with Moral for all we know. Like, who knows, honestly, right? Because like Killua is very much still a hunter. You know, a hunter association is probably the hunter association in general is probably aware of Killua at the very least, right? With how like I don't know. It's tough for me to think about with Killua specifically because again they could be anywhere. I don't know where they are.
Yeah, it's hard to predict because of exactly that. Like, we just don't know where he is, or what he's doing, or why he's doing anything. So I don't know, but I see him, like, obviously we can very clearly see the ties to the Dark Continent, so it would make sense for him to go there. Right. And maybe he'd ask Gon. I don't know. He's a weirder one than Gon for me to talk about because I just don't know.
At the very least, I think if we cut back to one of these characters, it'll lead to the reuniting of the other character.
Right.
So, like, if we cut back to Gon, I think it's only inevitable that it leads back to Killua, and then vice versa.
It's possible that Killua and Alaka, in their travels, end up in Meteor City. Ooh. And that could start a gyro thing. In some capacity, he could meet up with Welfin, who's likely there by now. Yeah. And that could get something going. Maybe at first it doesn't seem like Gyro would be like an antagonist. Maybe it's just like, oh, he sees Welfin and maybe Ikalgo. I don't know if Ikalgo went there.
I can't remember.
I don't think he wasn't like in the van with them at the end, but I don't know where he did go. He might have just stayed at the mansion or something. But you know, he could see Welfin regardless. Somebody, and Welfin would be like, oh, I got to introduce you to my pal Gyro. Yeah. And that gets the whole thing going.
That's an interesting setup. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah.
Also, no idea that I want to throw in here, though, is that however Gon gets wrapped back up into hunter business, he obviously will have to relearn Nen, right? And if we remember... how Killua and Gon even learned Nen is that they had their pores forcefully opened by Wang, right? Wing. I don't know why I put the A there. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Wing and Zushi and them, they forcefully opened their pores and forcefully learned Nen. If Gon... Was it said if Gon even has like aura coming out of him at this point, or is it just like fully closed off?
The pores were closed.
The pores were closed. I remember those like exact words almost being said. So who's to say he doesn't maybe go back to Wing to learn the actual
proper way.
The proper way of learning Nen? I think so. I like this idea specifically because if you remember when we talked about earlier about how like they could just cut back to him for even just a short amount of time before going back to Dark Continent stuff. What if we cut back to Gon? He gets like his inspiration to go out there and learn Nen and be a hunter again and all that. And then we end off his little mini arc with like him, going to Wing and like, maybe they start like training him again. The actual way this time though. And then that leads to cutting back to the Dark Continent because it's going to be quite some time before he's actually done training with Nen.
Yeah, for sure. I can see it. I really like that idea of Wing and Zushi coming back into the fray and teaching Gon Nen again. Yeah, could even be Zushi instead of Wing.
Zushi. Yeah, that'd be really cool, and that'd be a decent way to wrap Killua and Alaka back into because I could see a fun little couple chapters of shenanigans with like Zushi, Killua, Alaka.
Yeah,
I think that'd be really cute, honestly.
Yeah.
So I like that idea specifically because that ties in with if we just want to have a short visit with them, that'd be an easy way to kind of get something going with them, kind of promising, hey, we're cooking with them now. It'll just be some time because obviously it's not going to take like a day to learn Nen the proper way.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Lastly, let's talk about Gyro for a minute. So this is kind of a thing where it's like, okay, if we're not going to the Dark Continent, then yeah, we probably see Gyro at least a little bit, but if we're going to the Dark Continent, we probably won't. So he's a wild card. I don't know when or how he will come back into the fray, but it's got to happen. We know it happens based on narration. It's
just a matter of where in this Togashi timeline does this take place. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the thought is we will probably just never actually really see Gyro's arc.
That's a sad thing to think about, though.
Will we see him at all before Hunter x Hunter's just done forever?
I would love
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, I would imagine like a chapter, like a chapter ender of like, like you could throw it in literally anywhere and it'd be exciting and nobody would like bat an eye at like how like, random it would be. Just like showing like a silhouette walking into some city and then you have a Meteor City sign or something, right? Something along those lines. Like, I don't know. Something to acknowledge his existence, I think would at least be possible.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see some Gyro stuff. And, it is a shame to think we might actually not see the whole arc play out, but maybe we can see the start of it, right? Like, we can see the seeds being planted for the future. We can see him building an empire, Meteor City. I don't know what we can even see. Something like that.
Even tying back to how we're thinking, maybe like one or two troop members survive, even if they're not like the troop in name anymore. Maybe they return to Meteor City. They're just, they're living their own life. They're trying to forget everything that happened on that boat, all their friends dying.
Yeah.
And, maybe they just like bump into Gyro, like walking through the city, if they returned home.
Yeah, sure. It's hard to imagine that. Like, I don't know how they'd get back.
I don't know either.
After it's all so weird because everybody's on this boat. I don't know.
That's the one thing you could maybe convince me that like everyone would die because like if they were to survive, did they just stay on the new continent? Like that'd be kind of a lame way for a troop member to live the rest of their life.
Yeah.
But
I mean, hey, what about the possibility of Gyro being on the boat?
Not impossible, I guess.
It's not.
Whoa, I never thought about that, actually.
It's completely not impossible. I mean, he never said he was going to stay in Meteor City. That could just be the start.
True.
Let his followers meet somewhere, come to him, and then, Beyond's doing an expedition to the Dark Continent? What's that? That's bigger than the mainland? What? I want that. And then he's just like, all right, let's get on this boat and start some shit.
Now you're getting me thinking of like if Gyro is just like sneakily on the boat, Takashi's a clever ass human being, and like we have like a troop member like interaction with Gyro, but they don't know he's like Gyro, obviously. Like, they don't know his intentions. That'd be so cool. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Ooh.
He could have. I mean, by now he could have leveled Meteor City. I don't know. There might not even be a Meteor City anymore. Like. There's so many things that could have happened in the time. Because you also got to think, we had a time skip before this arc even started. A lot of time has passed. Gyro's not just been sitting around. He's probably been making moves of some capacity. And the troop's not been around, so they wouldn't really know what's going on in Meteor City.
Yeah, you're cooking. I really like this idea, actually. Oh, wow. Getting chills.
It's kind of cool. Yeah,
that's kind of cool. And that could lead for like, I don't know. Oh my gosh, man. In that case, what if like everything actually just ends on the Dark Continent? What if that's like the last
It all
arc?
comes to a head.
Yeah.
Hey, entirely possible.
Oh man,
we have like every character in the world on that boat. All we gotta do is get going and Kilo with Gyro, but he might already be on the way.
Yeah, if Gyro's on the boat and he is inevitably in the Dark Continent, Gon's destined to meet Gyro, then like easy cutaway, I guess. Get those boys on the continent, right? Oh man, that's an interesting idea. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that's that. I mean, that's a good note to end on, honestly. I think that's a pretty fun glimpse into a possible future.
Yeah. Well over an hour of discussion.
Yeah.
A lot of topics we touched on here, but I think this just goes to show there's so many questions, so many different ways, things could end up after Succession War. How it wraps up even in the first place, and, the ramifications of that. There's so much to consider. And hopefully we did a good idea of kind of just like, free-flowing this discussion to kind of hit on a bunch of different points about how, not only what we expect, but just what's possible in general.
Yeah, if nothing more, it was at least certainly fun to talk about.
Yes, absolutely.
This was a lot of fun. I think this freeform discussion thing kind of worked out, in my opinion. Let us know what you thought, though, guys. I'm sure we missed stuff. There's no doubt we missed stuff.
We're gonna inevitably read one or two comments at least from what we're about to read. That'll probably get our brains jogging more. But
so exactly. Let's see what you guys had to say. Maybe you'll fill in the gaps for us that we didn't talk about.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get into that. I'm ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. All right, let's see what you guys have to say about what you think will happen post-Succession War. As a reminder, as per usual, if you want to get in on the discussion for these episodes week to week, be sure to keep an eye out for weekly call-out posts on the YouTube community posts, as well as on the Twitter and Bluesky accounts. And if, we usually talk about what we're going to do next episode at the end of each episode. If you're not able to reach us via Twitter, Bluesky, or YouTube community posts, you can also email us at our email for thoughts there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into what you guys have to say. So first up from the Twitter call-out post is from Terror of Talos saying, I have a feeling the focus will shift directly to the Dark Continent stuff that was set up in the 340s. Though depending on Succession's aftermath, we could also get a small update on Gon and Killua, mainly to give a reason for them getting back together and set up the reintroduction of Gyro. I mean, you
right in line.
Yeah, you hit on basically every single thing that we talked about. So that's a good first comment to have. But fully agreed. I think depending on the aftermath is really what will determine if we continue with the Dark Continent stuff or if we even cut away in the first place.
Yeah. All right, next is from Weary Exile, who says, first things first, I'd like to say what I don't want to happen, and frankly don't think is very likely to. I don't think Owl, the Goat, Gon, Killua/Alika, rest of the Zoldycks, Kite, etc. are going or should appear, except Owl. Hey, I agree.
I know, man. Dang.
He'll be coming. As much as I love Gon/Killua as the best duo in Shonen, I'm already satisfied with what we got with them.
Really?
Even if Togashi were to stop drawing this manga completely, I would have been satisfied with their conclusions. Fair. I'll talk about that more in a sec, though. The same cannot be said about Kurapika, Jing, and especially Leorio. That's an excellent point. Those three need their time to shine, and Succession War / plus Dark Continent combination seems to be about that. With how overly... I will also add Hisoka into the mix there, too. He's also here.
Yep.
With how overly saturated we are with the amount of plot threads, character dynamics, arcs that are present in the Succession War, which is essentially just a big setup for the Dark Continent, getting closer to being longer than Chimera Ant arc, I would say that the length of Dark Continent can get up to 250 to 300 chapters. Are we talking total with the boat? Because that's crazy.
And I'm assuming it's just he's saying Dark Continent in general, like not the boat. I don't know.
That's
about
a lot.
That. That's a lot, dude.
Maybe 200. I don't know about 250 to 3, but hey, who knows? Togashi's original vision for this series is definitely huge. So
yeah.
If exactly as he says, if Togoshi, bless his health, can draw this much, Trying to predict anything specific in the current Hunter x Hunter without any major clues that we usually get once we're already balls deep into the arc is impossible. Besides the usual takes on Beyond probably being a villain, Pariston being a rival to Jing, Dome Freaks being alive. Oh, we didn't talk about Dome Freaks.
We didn't talk about Dome Freaks. Dang. Yeah. No,
damn.
Unlucky.
Meeting native humans still dwelling in the Dark Continent, blah, blah. What I want is a reenacting of the last Yu Yu Hakusho arc. Yeah, here we go. Which ended up in one of the most disappointing ways possible, indeed. We have our own... Our new Yusuke, Jing, explore the Dark Continent, and we can have our excluded Kuwabara, Leorio, actually getting to shine in a survival epic of gargantuan proportions and not a forced shonen tournament. Yes. For context, Dylan, that arc was a big setup. A war was going to happen, and then all of a sudden he's like, you know what, we'll just do a tournament instead to decide the fate of this country. Yeah.
Oh my god.
And Kuwabara is like Leorio's counterpart in Yu Yu Hakusho.
I assume so, yeah.
Yeah, who was not in the last arc at all in Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Very cool.
But if I were to try to guess something, I would say that Succession War will not end conclusively. The ship will sink, some of the princes / factions aboard the Black Whale will survive and reach the new continent. There will be even more separation with different POVs, Game of Thrones style. Jing will find the One Piece, Leoru will become the new Hokage, Pariston will reveal his true identity of being Paris Hilton, Ilumi will find his Vinland, and Beyond will start the rumbling. I rest my case.
Good one.
Why is Ilumi wanting to find Vinland? Ilumi definitely has enemies. I'm pretty much in agreement with what you're saying. Exactly. You actually agree with us too with the Jing and Leorio thing, sharing the spotlight in Dark Continent.
Yeah,
100%. We see that too. And
Perfect.
I also mentioned the Yu Yu Hakusho arc thing. Yeah, I really think this could end up being like Three Kings 2, but better, and without a tournament.
And without a tournament.
The only other thing I guess we should probably talk about in this comment is the Gon and Killua stuff that he mentioned. Did you have more to say on that, Dylan?
So while I mostly agree that, like, you know, in a vacuum, like their conclusions are satisfactory enough. Although I would argue that there is maybe with Killua specifically, I'm like pretty like, okay, like I could see where like if we just stopped exploring Killua as a character at all from here on out, sure, I'd be satisfied with where he left off. I don't know about Gon though. And that's only because it kind of ties back to my whole thing about like, he realized that, you know, he didn't necessarily, you know, his purpose and reasoning for going on these adventures wasn't necessarily to like find his dad, right? That it wasn't, he said himself that wasn't what he really wanted. That's what he realized, right? We haven't explored yet what actually drives him, you know, as a character now. What is his reason? Like, what is it simply just to adventure to see new things? We don't know that yet. It sounds like he hasn't even explored that idea yet of like that's what he really wants to do. So I'd argue Gon is far from finished, honestly.
Yes, and that's you exactly got it, Dylan. That's exactly what I was going to say too. I would be right with you, Weary Exile, if not for that line from Gon saying he actually kind of didn't want to see his dad. That's not what he actually wanted. Because that, in turn, makes his conclusion with meeting Jing on top of the world tree not satisfying, because it's not what he wanted.
Bingo.
If that was his goal, then yeah, I'm satisfied. But he wants more. He doesn't know what he wants yet, but he wants more.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, he's not done.
Yeah.
And Killua was definitely not done. There's much more to do with him. It was satisfying in a way, but the Zoldycks are still around. Ilumi's still going to be a dickhead. Yeah. There's more to do with him.
Yeah.
But I agree.
Again, even if we don't explore Killua's character, like, even if that's not like a main focus for the rest of the series, right? I think it's still worthwhile to like have him around as like kind of to showcase that friendship with Gon, at least further Gon's character a little bit more, just having him around again, you know, reuniting as like proper like buds traveling again rather than Killua trying to save his life, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So there's more to be done with those characters for sure, especially if you wrap Alaka in with Killua, because I think there's a lot to explore with that character.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. So thank you for the comment. That was a really good talking point there. Next up, we have from Several or Severa LF, something like that. Hard to say if this will remain the case given the release schedule, but I always thought shifting the Jing as the protagonist and primary point of view in the Dark Continent arc, hunting for Doan, is the most likely. Very nice parallel to the story pre-Succession War arc, but with Jing's hunt now as the focus instead of Gon's. So a lot of people are believers of Jing being the primary point of view, huh? Not something I really considered.
Again, I half agree because I also think Leorio, but yes. I do think Jing will be a big focus. I think his story will be important here, and I think we're going to learn a lot about him.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think now's a good opportunity to also like talk about Doan first, since we neglected to remember him within the main talking points. What do we think is going to happen with that character if he's even alive?
He's going to be alive. I'm pretty damn sure he's going to be alive.
Okay.
Either a survivor of like the one calamity that makes you live forever but you go crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Like somehow overcoming that, or he's just really old, because we still don't know his relation to Jing. Actually, we don't know if he's like his father, grandfather, great grandfather.
Yeah,
he could still realistically be alive.
They're related because the last name is the same. That's all we know. Yeah,
that's all we know. But he's absolutely going to be alive, and what kind of role? That is impossible, guys. I don't know. But
it'd literally be like finding a needle in a haystack, or like trying to shoot an arrow in the dark. Like,
yep,
that's impossible. Like, what can we say about that realistically?
It could, I guess, be like this will fall on deaf ears to you, Dylan, but it could be like a Ryzen thing, I guess, from Yu Yu Hakusho, where Yusuke finds his dad, but he's like old and dying. But he like carries on his will in some capacity. There's something there, but I don't know what Doan's will would be in this case, because there's no like. Well, I guess there could be a battle for the throne happening on the Dark Continent, but I don't know. We don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I think either way, whatever focus Jing has on the Dark Continent will be closely related to Doan. I mean, that's like the only logical thing that Jing would have a purpose for, the Dark Continent, to be honest.
Yep. That's why he wants to go, pretty much.
Yeah. Because he wrote the book, right?
Yep. He wrote the book.
And they have one half.
And you got to find the other half, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Yeah, I mean, that's a easy layup for a storyline there. So, I agree. I just don't, Jing point of view for that would be really interesting. I don't think that'll be the only focus, though. I think it'll be, again, like I said, kind of like this current Succession War. Well, we'll swap point of views probably frequently there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Especially if Jing just goes off on his own. That's just means to cut away,
Absolutely.
2 separate plot lines.
For sure.
All right, next is from Leo Dog 468. Says, "Here's how I see it going down. They land on the Dark Continent, but when they get off the boat, to everyone's surprise, they see sunshine and rainbows and cute fluffy animals. The vibes there are so good that Pariston says, 'Hey Jing, let's put a pause to our game and go enjoy a drink by the beach.' This then prompts Hisoka to reveal himself to Crollo and give a heartfelt apology, which Crollo can't help but to accept because it's so heartfelt. Finally, Gyro and Moreno walk out and officially renounce their evil ways, vowing to start a charity to help all those affected by their past actions. The narrator then says, 'Thanks to the undying spirit of our true main character, Owl, the world has truly become a better place.' The end." Yes, I fully support this, and I think it's very likely and possible. I mean, I wasn't on board. I'll be real. I wasn't on board with this until you mentioned Owl. That tied it all together. I really get it now. I get the vision. I understand where you're coming from here. So that's brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, Owl really set up all these other characters. Right? He walked so everybody else could run. So
yeah, I mean, every character in the series pretty much they have Owl to thank for something.
You're absolutely right. So yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. 100%. We should highlight this. We should have this comment on the entire video version of this episode.
Yeah, actually, forget the rest of everything we said in this episode is kind of pointless because of this.
Yeah.
This is probably what's going to happen.
We will point you to this comment specifically only. That's our thoughts.
Yep.
Yeah. No, thank you for the comment. That was very entertaining.
Yes, thank you.
Next up, we have from Bizarre Czar saying, I've always thought it would be supremely interesting for Togashi to explore the narrative of humans originated from the Dark Continent. Ooh. Thus, after the Succession War and whatever awaits with the new continent and Moral's ship exchange, the new crew would arrive on the DC and run into the native peoples after some hardship with the terribly dangerous terrain and monsters. A thought I've had and discussed with friends that I don't think many realize is that Africa was actually once called the Dark Continent due to all its mystery before colonization and exploration. Many people would even claim it was magical due to nobody knowing anybody of it and the vast amount of resources. There's many similarities to that unlightened period of mystery and magic about the real-life Dark Continent and the Dark Continent in Hunter x Hunter. I think someone should even make a video about it or do more research because Togashi's parallel with both Dark Continents could easily make way for one of the most gripping and narratively rich arcs in manga, period. Imagine if Beyond has plans of colonization/conquering similar to conquistadors of that time. Or if the main cast run into Don Freaks who is genuinely appreciative of the Dark Continent and conflict sparks. Sorry for yapping, but I think Togashi's cooking something fit for a finale, even though it may not be. Ooh. So, so the idea here is that, like, based off of real life inspiration, maybe this entire arc is about, like, colonization and, like, how that's probably a very bad thing and, like, it's just the preconceptions of the Dark Continent is wrong, or, like, it's not. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
This is great, and I especially like what you said about Doan here, because this is kind of the missing piece about the 2 comments ago when we were talking about the Ryzen and Yusuke thing, where so Ryzen's whole thing, he was one of the 3 kings competing for the throne, and the main conflict between the demons was about humans as a food source, and Ryzen was on the side of just completely don't eat humans. That's why he was dying. He hasn't eaten in like hundreds of years. So this right here, Don Freaks being a sympathizer of the natives, is like, that's almost like a 1-to-1. Like it's a pretty direct link to that arc, and that's one of the sides that could be taken. And Jing maybe taking on that role in place of Don, or just allying himself with him, would be really interesting. And then we have a proper like battle for I guess rights to land in the Dark Continent, which would be really interesting.
Dark Continent really is just going to be 3 kings, isn't it?
It's sounding like it. The more time has gone on, I am convincing myself that this is like 3 kings again, but better.
That's just such a cool like thing to think about. Oh man, but no, I love the idea. I love this the potential inspiration behind what you're thinking, and I think that sets up for a really gripping conflict as well, like you said. I think that could be a very, like, obviously, like, the world is just kind of shit in terms of, like, how we treat one another and, colonization and all that, right? It's big topic, talking point. And I think, exploring that within Hunter x Hunter's universe would be really intriguing, especially with Dark Continent. Because, like, I'm thinking about it from the perspective as well that, like, we've been presented with the idea of the Dark Continent is just like this really dangerous, barbaric place. Nobody ever wants to go in. Nobody ever leaves. Nothing but evil and bad comes out of it. And what if we actually just like, we go a little bit further into it and like there's people there that are genuinely happy to live there. Like flip the entire thing on its head. And especially on us as the readers. That'd be so cool.
I love that. Yeah, that's such a good idea. Am I next?
Yes, you would be next.
Yeah, okay. So this next one is from CRHJ2HK, who says, well, I have this theory about Beyond's motivations being beyond having his kin on the throne. What if he wants that because the future king will have access to the 3 treasures of Kakin, and those treasures are key to enter the Dark Continent or bargain with the guardians of the Dark Continent entrance, something like that. And so it would become a race. By the way, Beyond Crollo and maybe Kurapika, who wants to stop the succession war to obtain it. A race like between them, I think is what that means there, not by the way.
Yeah, like a running race.
Yeah. It would not be after the succession war, but before it ends. So I'm probably off topic, but I think it could be an interesting development. Problem is there's too many characters with their own motivations crossing paths, so I'm totally ready for something totally unexpected. And we have a lot of players in the background we don't know a thing about at the moment. So many wild cards. Hisoka, Ilumi, and Kaluto, Jing Pariston, and CA? Who? I don't know. The Zodiacs, contingency plans, etc. Okay, so yeah, putting a lot of stock in the sacred treasures, which is interesting. We haven't really put a lot of thought into those lately, ever since they were introduced. And them being tied to the Dark Continent is certainly possible. I mean, we have... they're seemingly magical items, which would be in line with the Dark Continent.
Those are definitely going to be explored. Like, I mean, those are a big deal within the Succession War in general. We don't really know their purpose, though, right? Like, much more than just, like, you know, this will make, like, the king, essentially, right? Like, these are items that will benefit them. So, yeah, that's an interesting, you know, we could tie that into Dark Continent, potentially. Or maybe just of it being, like, originating from the Dark Continent even would be kind of cool.
That's about all I see, though. I don't see it being like a key because people have gotten into the Dark Continent before this many times, actually. So, and they assumingly didn't have these sacred treasures.
Right.
So I don't exactly see that, but I do see them being an important item. I mean, they're definitely going to be important to the succession contest. That's no doubt. We could still have that race, as you say, between everybody gunning for them but not in regards to the Dark Continent. I think it would be more so to stop the succession contest, at least on Kurapika's side. And then Crollo has his own motives. And yeah, maybe Beyond wants them, I guess. Who's to say? But yeah, I think we should be thinking about those a little more, even though we don't know much about them. But they're definitely going to be a plot device later on.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just a matter of when they'll be used.
Yeah.
Next up, we have from Godzilla King of Kaiju saying, I think that the ending to the Succession War arc will happen to end with the boat suddenly making an arrival to the fake Dark Continent, putting a temporary stop to the succession battle. Maybe during that, Crollo can manage to steal Kakin's 3 treasures, and when the remaining princes plus Nasabi get back on the Black Whale, they'd find themselves unable to continue the succession battle properly. Ooh. Postponed from the treasures being stolen? That's a neat way to go about it.
Yeah.
The characters I think will die by the ending of the Succession War arc is the Haley minus Morena Mafia group. Okay. Benjamin Bonolanov. Pardon my horrendous misspelling of Bono's name.
That is pretty bad, but that's fine.
And Loserus. I'm probably,
also not correct.
No, but I appreciate the effort. I could read it still.
Yeah.
I'm probably forgetting so many other characters because the arc is so densely packed, but that's one of the things that makes the Succession War arc one of the best and most engaging arcs in the series so far. Yeah, so we both agree, right, that if any troop member is dying immediately, it's Bonolanov, right?
Oh yeah, he's biting the dust soon.
Yeah, it's not looking good. Yeah, I agree, though. I think all of those characters will probably die before the end. So, sorry if this doesn't make a whole lot of sense and came off as rambling, lol. Without being Togashi or having an ability to look into his mind, it's extremely difficult to try and speculate. Anyways, I hope the channel continues to grow and that great things await your future. Take care, Dylan and Kaige. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, good thoughts. I like stuff like that. I like stream of consciousness thoughts. It's fun.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, too. It's hard to predict Togashi's mind, but, you know, that's the fun of it at the same time.
Absolutely. We just spent an hour trying to do it.
Yep.
All right. Next is from Paya Isola 4917, who says, Togashi's arc transitions are always so clean, with much of Succession War arc remaining, 40 chapters at least, I think, and many plot revelations to come. It's very hard to predict what's to come next. A possible transition would be Morena failing with destroying everything, and the perspective jumps to Gyro, who will be more successful and has a less bald, direct a bold, a bold approach.
Like, are we Welfin now? Like,
A less bold approach. That's funny. It would just be a short intervention, intermission, I assume, setting up what will happen on the mainland. Succession War will be concluded, and the Dark Continent arc takes place. Not going to be long because they realize how dangerous it is. Only Jing Beyond and some of his men stay. That's a bold claim. Okay. Coming back to the mainland, everyone realizes the world has changed, and we go into Gyro arc portraying his rise. Okay. So
Dark Continent being like a red herring is like what's like the actual next main arc to be. Ooh.
It's interesting.
And I'm surprised we didn't talk about this because we've definitely brought up this idea before about how like Morena's kind of like a parallel of Gyro, right?
Yeah.
So using her failure as a way to segue into Gyro's success.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
There's something there for sure. I like that. Yeah, I don't know. The idea of Dark Continent not actually being like an arc, or at least being like only involving those people, that's a little far-fetched to me just because of how much this has been built up. And yes, I know Togashi is Togashi, but this is a lot. I don't know. There's so many things here that are just waiting to be explored that it would be crazy to just not have any of it happen.
Yeah, unless... Yeah, so...
Well, it's a half and half thing, right? Like, if it's... We got Jing and then the rest.
Yeah, I guess the implication...
go back and forth.
Yeah, the implication is just that, like, only Jing, Beyond, and a few other people stay there while everybody else is like, yeah, fuck this, and we go back. Which, fair enough, I guess. Which I wouldn't... Again, that'd be kind of cool to have that be kind of like a subverting of expectations moment. Although I feel like that would shaft Leorio very heavily at the same time.
Yeah.
So...
It would.
But
he could have a big role on the mainland, too.
Right. Who's to say he couldn't be one that stays as well for whatever reason? So
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. There's interesting things to talk about there. But, yeah, I mean, hey, I like the boldness of your...
Yeah,
these,
that's interesting.
Yeah, good comment.
Or the baldness.
Yeah, the baldness, my bad. All right, next up, we have a comment from Issa saying, I think the Succession War will end with the whale boat exploding / or for whatever reason so damaged it can't sail further. Fair enough. Okay. The rest of the people will go to the Fate Continent on the boat on top of the whale. Okay. We'll enter the Dark Continent, and since we already have seen one of the 4 calamities, it would be very dope if we could see in depth how the other 3 work and how they enter or get to use a human. Okay. We will see Dome Freaks, or at least his other half of the book. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Lots of things will happen.
True.
Truest thing I've read yet. This entire thing. Then a time skip. I don't know how long, but we will see Gon after the time skip, just like he was when fighting P2.
Whoa.
But then his body being natural. Plus, I think also him having another ability or Nentai. This is a long time skip you're talking about then.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Plus, like I said somewhere else, I think it would be very dope the first moment we land in the Dark Continent, we see an Ant King and his guardians walking up to the group, and those ants being totally no diff destroyed by another animal / monster in the Dark Continent.
That would be kind of sick.
I would really like that, actually.
Yeah,
just to set up, like, yeah, this is like an entirely different ball game.
Yeah, that'd be pretty rad. I don't agree with the time skip thing. I will say that.
I was slightly on board if it was just by like a year or two, potentially, but like adult Gon. Yeah, no, I don't know about that.
No. Maybe teenage Gon. But
teenage Gon would be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
More teenage. Yeah, I'd be down.
I'd be so down for like a year or two time skip. That'd be cool. Gives time for Gon to relearn his Nen.
Yes. Yeah. It happening off screen would be a little sad, I guess, but as long as we get to see like at least like the start of it, I'd be fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like how he starts.
Yeah, there's a neat idea there, just not that far ahead. I think that wouldn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
Personally.
And yeah, the calamities for sure I want to see more of, which we will.
We will see the calamities when we get to the Dark Continent. That's
not a doubt.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, next is from Force Rounds Penguin, a new name here. Says, I think we'll catch up with Gon. Maybe he has a new goal to pursue. If he needs to learn Nen again, maybe Wing can teach him how to get his aura back the proper way. No shortcuts. Hey, there you go. Are you right on board with us?
Right on board, yep. completely agree. I think that'd be really cool way to introduce Wing back into the forefront as well. Even just for a little bit. I'd love to catch up with him and Zushi.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Next up, we have from Brickerson saying, I don't know why I always thought after the survivors meet up with Moral, Togashi would quickly point of view switch back to human world and maybe show Gyro making some moves. I've always imagined it'd go Succession War, Dark Continent arc, Gon becomes MC again, learns then with less self-destructive mindset, and fights Gyro, bringing the final arc. And yeah, I mean, you're not alone in that kind of like rough time frame or like that rough timeline of events happening. I think that's something a lot of people jump to naturally when thinking about it.
Yeah. So rather than like it just cutting to do the full Gyro arc after the boat, we'll see part of it develop and then maybe even like side by side throughout the Dark Continent. You know, we could like have a thing where we cut back.
Yeah.
You know, every once in a while to see going the rest.
Honestly, yeah, just due to how, I mean, I guess there's the argument that like, you know, you could be doing that with the Succession War right now, but it's been fully solely focused on the Succession War. That like, you know, why would they cut back and forth between them? But I don't know. I think Dark Continent and Gyro shenanigans would be maybe not easy enough to cut back and forth between two, but they're so segmented. They're so far away from one another that like it's feasible.
Oh yeah, 100%. And also, this is if Gyro is not on the boat, like we were talking about earlier.
That's
but
true. That's kind of
again, there's so many different possibilities. We can be all over the place. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. I like that idea too.
Yeah.
Definitely possible. Next is from Edo Kava, who says, Gyro destroyed the world, leaving only a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and now the last remnants of civilization are the people left on the fake Dark Continent. Wow, that's dark and crazy. Or maybe we'll just follow Gon on his wacky adventure to reunite with Kilo and Alika. That would be cool too.
It's really entertaining, isn't it, to be at a point where like we could either see like really dark ramifications of whatever happens, or we just go back to a happy-go-lucky adventure, and I'd be fine with either, honestly.
Yeah. As much as it's absolutely not going to happen, I do really like that idea of everybody on the Dark Continent being the last of humanity, but they have no idea. Like, that's kind of crazy and cool.
That is kind of cool.
That would not happen.
You also have to ask, though, if he leaves only a post-apocalyptic wasteland in the mainland, you know, what the hell happened with, like, you know, Gon and Killua and, you know, all of our favorite characters?
They'd be dead. They'd all be dead.
That'd be kind of sad, wouldn't it?
It sure would be, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. But cool thought, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Next up comes from the Young Knight saying, I definitely think Leorio is going to have his first protagonist arc on the Dark Continent. Yes.
There you go.
The last place you'd expect from the weakest protagonist. Yeah, I mean, isn't that the fun of it, though?
Yeah, exactly. I've said that before.
And I think he'll be the shining beacon of hope during what might be the darkest time in all of Hunter x Hunter. I also believe Kurapika will be rendered largely out of commission for the arc, upping the stakes by removing one of the greatest strategists / Nen users on the ship, while also pressuring Leorio to have to find something that will save Kurapika's life.
Good. I like that.
Love that. If only there was something that could remove the strain of Emperor Time and give Kurapika back those years he threw away for vengeance.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. That's excellent. That is so good, man.
Dude.
Young Knight, that's great.
You're cooking.
I love that. As a motivator for Leorio as our hero, excellent, dude. That is so good.
That would convince me as like Togashi writing, like for like, you know, that kind of setup. I love that for sure.
No notes, honestly. That is fantastic. Thank you for that comment. I'm gonna be thinking about that for a while.
That was
amazing.
That was the one hang up I've had about like Leorio being the protagonist. So like I want it to happen. I just don't know what his motivation would be necessarily. But this kind of like this by far makes the most sense of anything I've thought about. There it is. Before. Yeah.
So good. So good.
Very
Thank you
good
for that.
comment.
I love that. All right, next is from Unikimi, who says, Gon, Kilo, and Alika are already in the new continent with Morel.
Woo! Okay.
Yeah. Kurapika surviving the Succession War, and the theory about the Kurta clan being from the Dark Continent might be true. Could be.
Could be, yeah.
Seriously, I don't see Leorio as the main protagonist. What the hell? Did you read that last comment?
Damn it.
Jing might be taking over from Kurapika if ever. Dark Continent has always been his goal as a hunter first and foremost. What would be Leorio's? I hope Kurapika survives. I want to see him working with Jing. It'll be an intellectual powerhouse and pretty interesting dynamics. Some Phantom some Phantom Troop members might survive if Gyro is in Meteor City. Okay, hey, that last line I'm in agreement with. But yeah. But read that last comment, and maybe you'll change your mind about Leorio.
Yeah. So yeah, you kind of had the similar issue as I did. You know, like what would be Leorio's kind of goal on the Dark Continent? Well, you know, there's something there. Yeah. It's if his friend's life is in danger, then you know. That's something right there.
Just, give him something to search for on the Dark Continent. It doesn't even have to be that. It could be anything. I don't know. Some reason to want to find something crazy and magical on the Dark Continent, you know?
Bingo, yeah. I also really like the idea. Like, that'd be such a cool reveal to, like, get to the new continent and Gon and Killua and All are just right there. Like, hey, guys.
I actually do like that. That's kind of cool. That'd be fun.
And from there, we could cut back if needed, like, you know, flashback almost, you know, see how we got there.
Yep.
And then we continue with Dark Continent. That'd be a really cool segue.
I honestly might even say I love that. I think that's a really cool idea. That's nice. I would like that a lot. I wouldn't have any complaints.
No, I wouldn't either. And because it would make sense, right? Like, I think if Moral, especially knowing Moral's character, like if he deemed that he's gonna need some serious backup with this mission potentially, I think he would wholeheartedly call on Gon and Killua both.
Yeah. Those are his boys.
Absolutely. They absolutely proved themselves in Chimera to him. So he's very proud.
Yeah, and we don't know who's with Moral. I mean, surely at least Knuckle and Shoot, but I mean, hey, could be more.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, if we saw Knuckle again, dude, which Knuckle's probably gonna be there with Moral, right?
Dude, Knuckle and Shoot are gonna be there. 100%. That's his students. Yeah,
I can't wait to see them again, man. I can't wait.
I know. So excited.
That got me thinking all over again. Oh man, love them. But yeah, good comment though. Leorio will be a protagonist, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yes.
Next up, we have from P. Mastelade. I don't know. Hopefully, I said that right. Kurapika barely pulls through the arc and is in a state similar to Gon's after the Chimera ants, poisoned, badly hurt, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Leorio pulls off some big brain doctoring stuff to take care of and eventually brings Kurapika to his health. AKA, I really want that thing from Leorio's backstory about his friend dying to pay off by having Leorio face a similar situation too, this time save someone dear to him using everything he's learned over time.
This, but elongated. Not just like I don't want him to already have the skills to do it. That's my thing here. I want him to have to develop further and reach the goal. Maybe the skills to keep him alive at the very least if it's that dire.
Yes.
But not completely fix him yet. I want him to go through some trial on the Dark Continent to get there.
Because that's the thing Leorio's missing as a character, right? We haven't really seen like a proper conflict and tribulations kind of like event happen with Leorio. In terms of like, whatever's happening in the present of any given arc, right? Mm-hmm. We know a little bit about his backstory and past and whatnot, right? But we haven't actually seen him fight a proper personal trial head on.
No.
So I think elongating that, Kurapika being sick or, really badly damaged would help him a lot in that regard and would, again, give him a goal and meaning to be a protagonist, which is something I think we all really want.
Yes, absolutely. Next is from Low2199, who says, being super optimistic, I can see Hunter x Hunter having at most 2 to 3 York New size arcs after the Succession War.
Okay. Yeah.
One for the Dark Continent, another for Gyro, and maybe a last one to wrap up the manga by merging the 2 plot threads together and also reuniting the gang one last time. Okay, I like that too. That's another option. I hope that a Dark Continent arc is heavily focused on Leorio and Jing. There we go.
Yes.
Because they surely deserve more screen time. I always got a heavy King Kong vibe from the whole concept, so I feel that Beyond, or more likely Pariston, is going to bring back some calamity that will break out of the containment into the human world. Ooh. Outside of that, only Togashi knows what mysteries await us in the Dark Continent.
Only Togashi
Absolutely.
knows. That's right.
With Morena having a very similar characterization to Gyro, I feel that Togashi changed his plans for him.
Ooh.
I've heard this before, but let's read it. Personally, based on characters like Welfin, I never felt that he was the most evil guy to ever live that the end of his backstory presents him as. Okay. I feel like he will probably be more similar to Tony Soprano than Frieza. I've never seen The Sopranos, but I have seen Dragon Ball.
That's a funny comparison, though, between characters. Tony Soprano and Frieza.
Yeah, I don't know what that comparison even means, really, but sure.
I from the very little knowledge I have of Sopranos, and I could be very off base, so, don't come at me if I am. He's just, like, a very, like, mean dude, and, like, he kind of, I don't know, he has a bit of a kind heart to him, but he's just, like, he's very, like, he's just a very rough person in general. I think. Okay. I could be completely wrong. Please don't come at me if you're a Sopranos fan.
Just like a basic like mafia boss guy, I guess then, right?
Yeah,
like a mafia with a heart of gold kind of deal.
Kind of.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure. If I had to guess, a Gyro arc will probably have something to do with Gon dealing with his inner darkness that we saw during Chimera Ant. I like that. While dealing with Gyro, this person that seems to be entirely consumed by it. Okay, good.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, he has a heart of gold, but he kind of gets wrapped up into bad shit, kind of lets his desires get the best of him. I think that sounds right to me. Again, don't come at me if you're a Sopranos fan. I know nothing about it. That's just from hearsay.
If we ever get this far, I just hope we get more Kite and Wing.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes, I would love to see Kite again.
Okay, I see what you're saying now about Gyro. Yeah, I guess, yeah, I've never really viewed Gyro as a Frieza type. I mean, Frieza is just, like, mega super evil racist asshole. Like,
like there's nothing good about him.
No, Gyro has something. He has a tragic past. Frieza was just a privileged brat. I mean, he wasn't, like, there's no tragic story there. He just is an asshole.
Yeah.
Gyro is more layered, and I think that will be shown. I mean, we like Welfin, and there's a reason Welfin probably dedicates himself to Gyro. Mm-hmm. So we just have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm inclined to agree with most of what you said there.
Yeah, and there's some credence in that. Like Welfin is like a mostly stand-up dude by the end of Chimera Ant.
Yeah,
right? So like
100%.
Yeah, like I mean, there is something to say that he respects Gyro still, even at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's probably not completely evil. It's just a matter of like how much he's consumed, I guess, at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And he also is an ant now. So how does that affect him? We don't know.
Yep. Good point. Yeah, I agree with most of what you said though. I think that'd be very cool.
Yeah.
And then finally, last comment we have to read here, which admittedly is very possible. Post Succession War, Togashi retires from insert name. I can't deny this as a possibility, I suppose.
Yeah, that's
yep. not one I really want to talk about, but you're not wrong.
It's certainly possible, unfortunately. We've talked about that plenty, but we'll see. I hope not. I hope for his sake. I mean, if he needs to, then yes, but if he can keep going, man, come on. I want to see.
Yeah,
but
why'd you put this on? We were trying to avoid this all episode.
I should have had a no dooming rule in the call out post.
No dooming allowed. Well, it's only fitting as Hunter x Hunter fans we have to remind ourselves at the very end that it's a possibility the series just will end randomly.
Fate is unkind.
That's right.
Well, what a note to go out on, right, guys?
Yeah.
So, this is a great episode, though. I had a lot of fun.
This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed recording this one.
Yes. So, yeah, with that, this has been the Hunter Association. Thank you so much for listening. We are available on all major podcasting platforms, as well as YouTube for the video version. Be sure to follow, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can also follow us on Twitter at TXHXAPod, as well as Bluesky at just THAPod for updates on the show and as an alternative way to submit responses to the weekly call-out posts. As always, we'll be here the same time every week talking about Hunter Hunter, except next weekend.
Except
Dylan, where can people find you online?
You can find me at DJ Tengen. That's DJTENGEN on Twitter and Bluesky. Yeah, I like nerd stuff. I retweet a lot of random memes and nerd stuff. I'm going to a One Piece card game tournament tomorrow. I'll probably post results on Bluesky for that if you are at all interested in that, I guess. But I'll probably do very badly. But yeah, check me out there if you're interested.
Yeah, and you can find me at Kaige10 on Bluesky. It's KIIGE10. Nerd stuff, you know the drill. Not a One Piece event, but tomorrow I will be going to a Sonic the Hedgehog pop-up restaurant.
Oh, I read about that earlier, actually.
Yeah, there's just one happens to be right by me, so I'm gonna go check that out. There's a really funny T-shirt of Shadow the Hedgehog just holding a milkshake, and it just says Shadow in
You
really
need to get
big
it.
bold
You
text.
need to get it.
I'm gonna get it, and I'm gonna bring it to Frosty Faustin. So look forward to that.
Yeah. Also, check out our socials if you want to see updates about Frosty Faustings. I'm sure we'll be tweeting about that weekend.
Yeah, we'll try to post some pictures of us and of the con and stuff, and what we're up to, and maybe we'll take some videos and stuff too. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, maybe post a thing or two on the Hunter Association accounts. So yeah, but also
we'll at least show for sure at the very least I'll get a good couple pictures of like the setup of the Net Impact booth or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, they'll probably have some like stands and stuff too. Nice artwork.
Maybe merch. So. Try to get merch if we can.
That'd be really cool if they have merch.
Yeah.
Doubtful, but maybe.
Yeah, we'll see though. But yeah, it's very cool that we just happen to be going to this event that is featuring a big Hunter x Hunter thing. So I'm lucky as hell. I'm really glad.
Very lucky.
I can't wait.
It's making the trip even more worthwhile. So
yeah,
gonna be
so
good.
Super cool. And remember, guys, we will not have an episode on Sunday, but maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere around there. Maybe probably closer to Wednesday if I had to guess. Mm-hmm. We'll have a bonus episode. Not next. Sorry, I mean that Tuesday or Wednesday after. Let me get the number date.
Yeah, that'd probably be easier to communicate, wouldn't it?
Around the 29th or 28th, 30th, around that range, we'll have an episode about our experience with the Net Impact demo.
Yeah. So, yes.
And that will be... that will also be on audio services. I'll put that on the podcast feed as well. So
yeah, we could
everybody will get some.
Yeah, just if you want to see some potential recorded footage style from whatever sets we may get to play, maybe keep an eye out for the YouTube version. Any footage we do have, we'll definitely put there. But that's not a guarantee as well. But just keep that in mind.
Yeah, we're going with other friends too, so they might be able to record some stuff. They might be able to record us playing, depending on the rules and stuff.
Yeah,
but,
we don't know exactly how it'll work.
Yeah, but if we can get footage, we will get it. I promise you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I don't know. Oh, also, we didn't really talk. So they said this is going to be the newest build. Is it a new build or is it the same one from Jump Festa?
That's a good question. I'm gonna look at the tweet now, but I'm pretty sure the exact wording was the newest build.
So that probably means the same one from Jump Festa, if I had to guess.
Play the latest build all weekend long, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be like the build that was at the last event, because I think they used the similar verbiage for Evo as well last year.
And that was a new build.
That was a completely new build. They changed a bunch of the UI and added whole new mechanics and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So hey, all I'm saying is we could get playable Kite. Who's to say?
We could. Yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen here. I'm really excited. Yeah, if this is a new build, that there's gonna be a lot to talk about then.
Yeah, maybe Moral will be playable. That'd be really cool.
I hope.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm expecting something at the very least like balance changes from the last build, but
Yeah.
It'll be fun regardless.
Yeah, and we'll try to get in there a few times and play some matches anytime we get the chance or we're in the area, because I'd like to try every character that they have, at least between the two of us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, look forward to that episode. That'll be a lot of fun. That'll be really cool to talk about a game that's not even out yet. Mm-hmm. yeah, looking forward to it. So check out that next week, and we'll see you for the proper episode next Sunday, or 2 Sundays from now, sorry, where we will be talking about Leorio.
That's right.
That's
our second retrospective.
Yeah, very fitting, because we were talking about him a lot this episode. So
Yeah.
now we'll be able to talk about him even more on the first of the month.
It worked out really well, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the end of that. We'll see you guys for all the stuff we have to come in the next few weeks. And look out for the community post about Leorio in the coming weeks. And yeah, let us know your thoughts on that wonderful man. And we'll see you guys later.
Catch you later.